Halloween
Forever.
Steve, I learned something. I didn't really learn it. I just kind of pondered something recently that's kind of alarming to me. If you really think about it, especially watching this movie that we're going to be talking about tonight. I know that coconut oil comes from, crushing, pulverizing coconuts. Like, I know that about coconut oil, right?
Yeah.
Almond oil comes from crushing almonds, olive oil comes from crushing olives.
Oh, God.
I just feel really bad about all those babies.
That's in the seventh curse.
Oh, boys and girls, to a fucking showdown episode of Halloween is Forever. No, it's not a showdown episode. It's a minisode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
I was feeling so strong about that joke. I got confused. Actually, we were just talking about how we have a topic for our May Showdown here in a second. So I got showdowns on the brain, guys. It's not a showdown episode, though. It's just a little old mini-sode, boys and ghouls. But it's going to be a real fun one because, boy, howdy, do we have a son of a bitchin' doozy of a movie to talk about here tonight, guys. For those of you who are not, this just started playing or you just clicked on it without looking, you didn't see the title. We are talking about a movie from the year of our Lord 1900, the year of our lard.
Year of our lard.
Like oil,
That's also
grease,
oil.
fat. Yeah. 1974, I believe.
76 is what
76.
what I had, but yeah.
In that general range, we are talking about a movie called The Oily Maniac, a Shaw Brothers fucking Hong Kong special, you guys. So that'll be a lot of fun to talk about here in a damn second. But we got a couple of things we're going to do at the top of the show, as we always do. First of all, we've been waiting a little later on in the opening to talk about beer. Steve, let's get some beers out of the fucking way. You were taunting me as we were setting up all the recording, apparatus. You were pouring something that looks fucking gnarly into a glass. What are you drinking on over there? You're on your bullshit.
Hell yeah, dog. All up in that bullshit. Because it's a Saturday, and I was having a day. I was running errands. I went out.
Yeah.
I went to the farmer's market. I got some farmer's market stuff.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about that real quick. I got apple butter barbecue sauce.
Oh, hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. I got fried green tomato pepper relish.
Well, you're 2 for 2.
Hell yeah.
I never had either of those things. They both sound. I love apple butter. I love barbecue sauce. I love fried green tomatoes. I love relish.
Yep.
All those things combined sounds fantastic.
So I'll go 3 for 3 at the farmer's market. I got jalapeno beef sticks, homemade.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. 3 for $3.50. It's cheaper than buying a Slim Jim, but they're homemade. They're way better. So 3 for 3 at farmer's market.
I love a dang old homemade beef stick. I go down to the old Milk House Meats up the street from me, and they got a spicy beef stick up there. It'll melt your tits off. It's no joke hot. I think you might have had them over here at my house at some point, probably when we were recording, when we were doing the spookies and the spices around Halloween time. Boy, now here's the question. Have you went back and forth and went on a little dunk fest where you dunk the spicy beef stick, jalapeno beef stick, into the barbecue sauce or into the relish?
No, I haven't gone that far yet, but I still got like 2 beef sticks left. So I might fucks around, but I'll see what happens.
Might fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
I love to dip my parents make a spicy banana pepper mustard. It's really more like a chutney or a relish because it's like chunky, and they make like a homemade one. They can it, and dip some pepperoni, dip some beef stick, anything in that, and boy howdy is it good.
Hell yeah, I got the reflux just hearing that.
Yeah, you got me all hot and bothered talking about all these condiments and all these beef sticks.
Yeah.
So you had an assortment of tasty sounding things. Now tell me about the hot fucking dog water that you're drinking over there.
So I took that. I took my little adventure in, my excursion in. I took it all the way down to abjuration. I haven't been to like the actual tap room in a while because a lot of the times I get my beer from Abjuration at Creekside. But this time I took it all the way down to Abjuration. They just recently had like an event that was like they do these ice cream social events where they have like just a number of ice cream beers that they put out all at once as like a testing. And they're like, they test a whole bunch of flavors of ice cream. There's one there that I wish I would have got because it would have looked a lot more appropriate for this film. They released a black sesame vanilla. And it looks like some of the oil we see in this film, but they weren't canning the titular oil that makes up the Oily Maniac himself. Yes. So I could have been painting my walls the exact same way he was, but unfortunately they weren't canning that one, so I couldn't get it out. What they were canning though is they have a Blue Moon. And I know, being that you spent a significant amount of time in the Midwest, you're probably very familiar with Blue Moon ice cream.
I'm familiar. I don't know that I've actually had it, to be honest with you. Okay. But I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
But they canned a Blue Moon ice cream beer. I'm holding it up for Dan so he can see in our Patreon chat. But yeah, they got it all blue and chunky, and yeah, it's fucking gross and Brian's mad, but I'm here for it because it tastes like Fruit Loops, bud.
Well, you know what I thought it was, because your background, for those of you who join us in the old Discord, Steve's got this like kind of cyberpunky type of cityscape background that's kind of a bluish, purplish pink type of hues, and I thought it was matcha, and you were holding it up, and the background was just kind of combining to make it look more blue than it was. But no, I stand corrected. It is, in fact, a blue beer. Yeah. And shame on you. Yeah. And shame on you for it.
Dan says it looks like a blue version of Shamrock Shake. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. It looks yucky. It looks all around yucky. Is it a fruit, generally a fruit thing? Because isn't the Blue Moon like a pineapple and like what's the Blue Moon ice cream like flavor? I don't think I've ever had it.
So the Blue Moon ice cream flavor is like one of those sort of mystery type things because it's blue and like there's no correlation fruit. And the way I've had it, I remember it as citrus and marshmallow, which this is kind of like what that hits when I say it tastes like Fruit Loops. It's kind of hitting that citrus and marshmallow type flavoring. I was talking to one of the brewers who was down there, Dave. He's telling me it was a real motherfucker to actually get this to look blue because they did it with. Oh yeah,
I can imagine.
They did it with spirulina.
Does it have that weird? Because I remember when you and I were working on some silly beer projects, we were looking at. I got some samples of spirulina and put it in some beer, and to make it green, and it made the beer smell like fucking fish food. It was disgusting. we decided against it,
and that's why I wanted to tell you is like this one doesn't smell or taste like fish food. So that's good. Whatever they're doing, they avoided. Even though he said he put like a whole ass load in there, they still avoided it not like it doesn't smell or taste off.
It's not of the ocean. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I guess I always assumed, because I would see that on the list, and I love a fruit ice cream. You know, I'm the kind of guy who like fuck with a peach ice cream, you know, very quick. I get down with all those types of flavors, but I guess when I saw this, because of the Blue Moon, and it would be like a Hawaiian type of thing sometimes. I just assumed it was like a Hawaiian, you know, it would be like a coconut, pineapple-y pina colada type of thing. But no, it's just weird, sweet marshmallow. It says some people refer to it as, which I've seen this too, but I've never tried it because I don't know. It doesn't sound appetizing to me. Is people refer to it as Superman ice cream too, which I believe. The ice cream, the ice. I want to say ice cream store. That's not what it's called. What do you call? What do you call an ice cream? What do you call a place where you go buy ice cream at?
An ice cream shop.
An ice cream parlor. Maybe an ice cream parlor. I don't know.
Sometimes I just call it a shop.
Ice cream shop.
There's one that's kind of known in our area. Scoops on Beverly, which is up in the South Hills. They had they did Superman ice cream for a while, but I remember that from the 90s as well.
I think Katie's Corner, which is like a local chain, there's one up the road from my house, has Superman ice cream. I'm not 100% sure, but I just couldn't stop thinking about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when Mac refers to the place to buy hamburgers as the hamburger store. And he's like, if you wanted a chip, you should have got a bag of chips at the hamburger store. Anyway, that looks gross, and I am ashamed of you. All right,
great.
Here's what I'm doing, but I had the same thought process as you, right? So I decided we're talking about, the Oily Maniac. If you haven't seen the movie before, the titular Oily Maniac himself he's just a big old dang oily monster, right? Just a big old slop monster made of some dark brown blackish oil. So I said, I got to go get a beer out of the old cellar that just looks like I'm drinking, essentially old engine oil. So I grabbed a beer from my days at Founders. I pulled a variant of KBS out of the old cellar, and this is the CVC cinnamon vanilla cocoa variant. I will recall when I drank it fresh, it was among my least favorite variants. This is a big old imperial stout, bourbon barrel aged imperial stout with coffee, cinnamon, vanilla, and cocoa nibs. Like I said, I remember this being one of my lesser favorite ones. The Mackinac fudge I wasn't crazy about either because it was really, really sweet. But I'm telling you what, it smells great. You get a lot of the vanilla, cinnamon, obviously bourbon stuff. It's a little potting soily, I will say. The cinnamon is kind of I don't know, a little bit off-putting. It's a little astringent, and the whole thing is kind of giving me potting soil vibes.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get used to it. This is not a beer I drink that often. Right. This is a beer the KBS and CBS very, usually age extremely well. This is only a few years old, so this should be just fine at this point. When was this bottled? Let's see if I can find a date on it. This was bottled almost not even 3 years ago. So this beer should be tasting pretty fucking good at this point. It's been stored extremely well in a cool basement, perfect conditions, probably 60 degrees in that closet damn near all year round, or if even cooler than that. This beer is not great. I'm going to drink it. It tastes like potting soil a little bit to me right now. And I don't know if that's because of what else I'm sipping on a Coors Light here too. I'm not sure. Maybe I just had a handful of jelly beans. Maybe that has something to do with it, but we'll see how this thing opens up. But right now, not thrilled about it. Not thrilled about it. It tastes a lot like I would expect the Oily Maniac to taste, but yeah, here we are. Maybe a little Coke. I actually might prefer that because at least that would be a little coconutty. You know what I mean? I do fuck with some coconut.
I think it depends on when you get him from where he gets his powers. Because
it's not always coconut.
Yeah, sometimes there's road repair Oily Maniac. Sometimes there's gas station Oily Maniac. That's the thing. That's the thing they missed out on is just like all the variants of Oily Maniacs they could have been selling from Kenner. So
he doesn't discriminate in terms of the oil that he uses for transformation purposes, guys. We're not there yet. We'll talk about it. There's a lot to unpack with the Oily Maniac, guys. Before we do that, we got a couple things we got to do at the top of the Son of a Bitchin' show too. One is if you want to follow us on the social medias and you want to help us pick showdown topics, you want to suggest topics, perhaps you want to give us some Minisode topic suggestions. We will oftentimes take listener suggestions for those as well. Follow us on the social media. Get all oiled up, get all greased up, slide on into those DMs, give us a suggestion. We'll get back to you, and we oftentimes take those suggestions. So follow us on the social medias. It's at Halloween is Forever, pretty much everywhere. At Hallow Forever on the Twitter/X. Or if you want to shoot us a fucking email, do that too. It's at no, it's not at. It's HalloweenIsForeverPod@gmail.com. So go check that out. Okay, it is time to announce our showdown topic for May, guys. We are almost there. If you follow us on the social medias and you're active on there, you may have seen last week that on all the various social media platforms where this is a thing, we had a poll. The poll basically threw out 3 different topics that came up via the old spinny ass wheel last week. Just to reiterate what those were, and it was a close race, guys. We had 3, as always. We had space horror, any horror that happens outside in the old oily confines of space, or the non-confines. If you think you're fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson or whatever, because it's potentially goes on forever, guys. The space may or may not be infinite. Also, frickin' mummies, you guys. That was the second topic. I thought that was going to run away with it. Spoiler alert, it did not. And then lastly, fairy tale horror. So be any horror, heavily influenced by or retelling of or directly telling of a fairy tale. So these 3 topics, actually, all 3 of them won on different platforms. So this was quite close. But without further ado, the topic that won and will be our showdown topic for the beautiful month of May is space horror, you guys. So we are going to keep on our space shit. I did a space horror movie, sci-fi horror movie last month for my showdown topic. The topic, of course, was not space horror, but I took it down with that fucking space horror. So I'm in a space mood. Steve, I think you were pretty psyched about this topic too. Was this your A pick?
This was my A pick, and I think even further, we should define, like, yours was space themed. And I was thinking about other space themed ones we did. Life Force would have been space themed.
Hell yeah.
But I think if we do this, it has to occur in space.
Okay, that's good. That's a good call out. So it's not just something where space folks or space things come to planet Earth.
Right.
We're talking about this happens out in the vastness of outer space.
Yeah. So we're talking our Jason X's, our Critters 3s.
Sure.
Hellraiser 4, I'll accept, even though it kind of goes on and off.
I will say probably shouldn't, but yeah.
Yeah. It kind of goes on and off. Leprechaun 4 specifically, that one says it's in space. So, of course. We'll accept all those, but yeah. And then I guess the gate that we shut, the Meg rail we put up, is no alien.
I am on board. No alien. Because then we're just going to end up doing
Dan just said it in the Discord as well.
Meg rule. Should be a Meg rule, no alien. Yeah, because then we'll just end up doing Alien versus Aliens, know, or whatever. And
exactly.
Nobody wants to see that. We'll do an Aliens franchise retrospective type of thing at one point, guys. Maybe we'll do one where the wheel picks our alien movie or something like that. So I agree. So let's wait on Aliens, and then let's do anything else happening out in the icy depths of outer space. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll have a guest for May. We will talk about in the coming week what our picks are going to be so that you can go out and watch them movies if you wanna before you hear us talk about them. Should be a lot of fun. Love a space movie. Love a May. Looking forward to it. Okay, we got the beers. We got the announcements. Let's talk really quickly before we talk about this movie, guys. We are coming into the very last month of, or we are currently in the very last month of our current incarnation of our Patreon exclusives. There are exclusives in the movies. Exclusive podcast. Family is Forever. Steve, tell them about patreon.com/Halloween is Forever and what you could be gaining or losing if you subscribe over there.
Hell yeah. You jump on that Patreon and you get it. You get on that Rascal tier, right? On the Rascal tier, you get all the good stuff.
Don't fuck around otherwise.
Go all the good stuff.
Don't fuck around otherwise. Yeah.
And you get on the Discord, which means you could be in the chat right now, chatting it up. You could be telling us what movies we should and shouldn't pick for the showdown. You could be just asking about the beers. You could be doing all kinds of stuff. You get fun replies. We'll talk to you as we go along. Sometimes we mention you. You get all that. You get to see episodes happen live. Participate. You love it. Then
you could be seeing my nipple right now.
Yeah. Brian's got a nip out. but you can't see it unless you paying.
Yeah,
Gotta pay for it.
you could see it. You could see it. You could see my smooth hairless chest.
Yeah.
Bare chest.
Bare-chested boys.
All types of wild shits happening over here in the Patreon. You could see Steve's fucking gloop glop he's chugging on over there.
Oh yeah, you can see all blue.
You ever want to see a grown bearded man just chugging a glass full of what looks like laundry detergent?
Hell yeah, buddy.
You could be doing that right now.
Yeah. So you get all that, but then also you get Family is Forever this month. Next month, it's going to turn into something else. But this month, you jump on board, you pay that $5, you're going to get Fast 10 when it comes out in April. But also, you do get the past 9 episodes. You get all of it. You listen to it. Binge listen.
I wouldn't suggest it. Actually, it might be entertaining to hear me just kind of fall apart mentally. But Steve's been making me watch all the Fast and the Furious movies for the last 10 months. It's god awful. I hate watching them. I got one more left. It feels like I have 10 more left, even though there's only one more left. But I will tell you, I know now, going into the 10th one, that this is the Jason Momoa one.
Yes.
So I am eager to see if he's any good in this, because I like Jason Momoa. I'm not like I love Jason Momoa, but we'll see how he does in comparison to the caveat of other fucking, bad guys who have come in that they've just neutered and just made them grovel at the feet of fucking our main man Dom Torino. Which, why I call him Dom Torino, I would say it's an inside joke, but not really. I just started calling him Dom Torino at some point instead of Dom Toretto.
It's just apathy on your part.
It is. Well, it's been a lot of fun to talk about him. I can't say even a little bit it's been fun to actually watch the movies. But here's the fun part, guys. After this is all over, which is to say starting in May, now your boy's in charge. Now I get to figure out what the next Patreon exclusive podcast series is going to be. There's a lot of things we're talking about, one of which is potentially talking about some weird Christian propaganda horror movies. We'll see. There's a lot of fucking strange stuff we got in the hopper for this here Patreon exclusive podcast.
Everybody should get excited for what comes next, but get on. Look, here's the other way I want to appeal to people. That Fallout show just dropped, right? And everybody fucking binged it too quick. They gobbled it up Not like me. A bunch of greedy pigs that went nom 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 nom.
Yeah.
I look, and I'm not blaming anybody. I only have 2 episodes left myself.
I've only watched 2 episodes, so I've got. Is there 10?
I think there's 8. If
there's only 8, okay, so 10, I'm only 2 in.
If there's 10, then I got 4 episodes, and I'm really happy.
No, I think you're right. I think it's just 8, but I've only watched 2.
But here's the thing: these podcasts are like 2.5 hours long. There's no way you're going to be able to binge all of them at once like that. You'll be able to go through
3+ hours. Yeah, some of them are in fact 3+ hours. They're a lot of fun. Some of the hardest I've ever laughed on any podcast was us making fun of these god awful fucking movies and just going down rabbit holes of fanfic and all types of stuff. So go on over to patreon.com/Halloween is forever. Go over there and support your boys, and you can hang out in the Discord with us and listen to those extra episodes and all that fun stuff. All right, Steve, I do want to relive here when we talked about what we were going to do for our Showdown episode this month. We were like, we had a couple things in mind, and we were kind of back and forth. We had a couple listener requests that have been in the hopper for a while that we haven't picked up on. We talked about watching Baghead, which have you watched Baghead yet?
Not yet.
No, I watched about half of it and I got real sleepy and haven't finished it yet. So I'm going to go back and finish it. So we might do that one still. But you were like, hey, maybe we do this. Maybe we do that. Or ... the Oily Maniac. And then I said, Oily Maniac, fuck everything else. And then you sent the meme of the guy who shoots what's his name? I can say Fred Armisen. Jesus Christ, what's his name?
When Sean William
Will
Scott,
Ferrell.
Yeah, when Sean William Scott shoots Will Ferrell with the trank dart, and he just goes
in old school.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh yes."
And that's one of my favorites. Honestly, favorite just comedy scenes ever. Because then, from his perspective, he's like, "You got a fucking dart in your neck, dude." And he's like,
"You're crazy."
He's like, "Oh, is that bad?" He's like, "That shit is not cool." Anyway, it's a funny scene. Anyway, so I have never, up until this point, this is my first watch for the Oily Maniac, and I kind of forgot it existed. I didn't know about this movie. I wasn't super high on all the like Shaw Brothers, Hong Kong horror movies as much as you have been until really the last few years here. So really, since we've been doing the podcast, when I kind of started getting turned on to these more, your Boxer's Omens and things of that nature, right? Where I've really got into in the last few years. I watched. Oh boy, I don't know. Maybe not long after it came out, within the first year or two after it came out, I remember watching The Greasy Strangler and telling people about it. And we've talked about it on the show. I don't think we did an episode on it, but we've talked about The Greasy Strangler as just a bonkers fucking kind of black comedy horror or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've turned a lot of people onto The Greasy Strangler. And somebody did say, I think on the Instagram, have you seen The Oily Maniac? Oh. And I Googled it and was like, fuck. And then I just haven't watched it. It's just been on my watch list for a while. So whenever you proposed it, I was like, this is a perfect opportunity for me to see The Oily Maniac. And I really thought it was going to have a lot more in common with The Greasy Strangler. Nothing at all, really.
Yeah,
it doesn't have anything to do with it at all. I thought at least it would be like The Greasy Strangler will have been heavily influenced by it. No, not really. Don't really have anything. Maybe the title. Yeah. And maybe some of but even then, that's pretty much it. They don't have anything to do with each other otherwise.
I have to believe it's like tangentially inspired. Like the filmmakers of The Greasy Strangler probably have seen this movie. Mm-hmm. And then like they wanted to make their own movie about just like a guy who's covered in, slime going around killing people.
Yeah.
But then obviously they just made it their whole own entire thing. But
yeah, the characters aren't even the same type of character at all.
No.
Like, well, I guess they are kind of like put upon type of characters in a way.
Yeah.
But in one, The Greasy Strangler is just like a totally separate guy who just happens to be like, he's like a serial killer. And in this movie, he's like more like a Toxic Avenger type situation.
Right. Which is the other thing I wanted to ask is like, did you happen to get any like Toxic Avenger vibes? Because I know that was just on Joe Bob's on Friday. And I was like, that's just perfect.
Last night.
Yeah. It's perfect. They did that. And we're going to do this film because this film feels like it's a prototype of the Toxic Avenger. Just with the way he moves, the way he runs around, the way he's constantly screaming, and like he just fights like every shitty kaiju film. Yeah, it fucking rules.
Yeah, he fights like everyone in the world's a putty, except for he has super limited mobility in the suit.
Yeah, so
he's just kind of flailing his arms, and people are flopping around.
Yeah,
it's pretty tremendous. For those of you who don't know, aren't familiar with the Shaw Brothers, and so they are a very famous low budget production company known for very schlocky, wild, wacky. Hong Kong horror and sci-fi movies, right? So, when you see that Shaw Brothers screen at the beginning, during the production credits, you're in for some real grade A wacky Hong Kong schlock. So typically they have some more serious movies.
Sure.
But typically you're in for some sweet Hong Kong schlock. This director has directed a lot of movies that would fall in that vein, although not a ton of them that I have seen. Guy named Meng Hua Ho was around, born in 1923, just died in 2009. Yeah, so he's of Cantonese origin, born in Shanghai in 1923, just passed away in Hong Kong in 2009. So dude be living a long ass life. Any other movies that popped out? I think I've seen or at least scrolled through some of his movies on Tubi, but the ones that he's most known for, like The Long Chase and The Jade Rock Shot, like I've not seen these. Anything else from his repertoire you're familiar with?
No, not particularly from him. I think the writer of this film might be a little more connected to us and like what we know. I think too much of his stuff just kind of stayed in China and didn't really make it out. I think The Flying Guillotine is one I've seen.
So that's one that the title jumped out to me, but I don't know if I've actually seen. And if I'm remembering, I think that's just more of a straight up martial arts movie.
That's a straight up martial arts film. And then like the guillotine is the weapon. So like,
so I've seen clips of this. It's on like a string. It's on like a rope or a chain. And he flings it around over people's heads and then pops their heads off. Yes,
yeah, buddy.
I may have seen the movie, but I have most definitely seen just like clips on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, so I think that's the one he is probably most known for is the Flying Guillotine. Everything, maybe the Black Magic films, but I haven't seen those. And nothing else is jumping out at me as like, these are his big, tent poles. I think it's really got to be the Flying Guillotine, and then maybe Killer Darts as well. But yeah, like you were talking about, like the Shaw Brothers studio, like whether they were producing or just distributing, it either falls into martial arts or exploitative horror or a mix of both. Because The Boxer's Omen was put out by the Shaw Brothers. So
and that was the first one from theirs that I saw that I just absolutely fell in love with. Yeah. But there's like just anything that has like not as much like Samurai Ronin stuff, obviously, which would be more Japanese. It's all like Shaolin monks and shit, stuff like that. Like, just cutting people's heads off and stuff like that. And wacky monsters and, fucking, I think there's probably some hopping vampires in there, that sort of thing.
Sure.
In any case, we know we're in for it here. This one, so, as you'll see with a lot of these. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to talk about the writer for a second as well, though, before we move on. So the writer of this film is Lam Chow, and he is much more known as a producer, and he has like a real strong stable of films that he produced. He has Mr. Nice Guy and City Hunter, which are Jackie Chan films. I think a lot of people would probably recognize City Hunter also as like it started as an anime, and then there was this Jackie Chan adaptation, and I'm sure you'll recognize it. But do you ever see the photos or the clips of Jackie Chan dressed as Chun-Li from Street Fighter?
Yes.
It comes from that movie City Hunter. So is
he literally dressed as Chun-Li, or is it just a coincidence?
No, he's literally dressed as Chun-Li. Like it's a ripoff of Street Fighter for whatever reason. He's also the executive producer of Ricky-O, The Story of Ricky.
Oh, great movie. I've actually had that one on my list as a punishment, a quote unquote punishment movie for a while.
Yeah, that one's for the boys at some point. We'll get to that one at some point. And then
sure.
He's also an associate producer on The Seventh Curse.
Ooh, which I just watched. Steve suggested to me. It was a lot of fun. That's the weird Taiwanese, right? That's the Taiwanese one. Taiwanese joint.
A little bit, yeah. But, I mean, I think it still falls into it. Like all of these films have the same kind of. I mean, this film, Seventh Curse, and Boxer's Omen all have that connective tissue of being filmed elsewhere, of like in Malaysia or Thailand, but they're still like Hong Kong productions, but they're filming elsewhere for cheaper reasons or whatever, and then also because like they just absolutely throw everybody else who's not Chinese under the bus. They're just like, look at these fucking crazy magic savages, is how basically how they treat anybody who's not Chinese in these films.
Well, Well, and especially in the seventh curse, that it's like, is that one Malaysian? But isn't the guy like basically the Malaysian version of like James Bond or something like that?
Yeah, I think he's like the Hong Kong version of Indiana Jones and James Bond mixed together.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fun movie.
Yeah.
But he's also a doctor, right? He's a doctor.
He's a doctor. He's a doctor,
Yeah.
and then he flies around the country. He does archaeology, but he also knows kung fu. The dude fucking rules. He's the most Mary Sue protagonist I think I've ever seen. He fucking rules.
It's seriously so shameful. Like the guy has no. He's barely a character. He is perhaps only slightly more of a character than our friend Dom Torino.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, this movie, the Oily Maniac, is bonkers, and there's a lot of problematic themes in a lot of these movies. This movie has a ton of them. This is basically the humble story of a disabled incel turned magic coconut oil monster. And he does it for all the wrong reasons.
Right. Yes. But
that's basically,
but it also rules because there is a text crawl at the beginning of this film saying it's an adapted fable about justice. Yeah. And then you watch it and you go, boy, there's a lot of women just getting sexually assaulted and this guy hates women. And
it is such an incel fantasy, this whole thing. There are some very uncomfortable moments. And it demonizes women. Like even the best, quote unquote, best depictions of women in this are just as like simpletons. That's the best interpretation of women. At worst, they are like treacherous succubi. It is just, it is an incel dream. It starts out bonkers. You get this crazy title screen with like this like really intense, like dire kind of quick title scene with the Oily Maniac, and then just like this jaunty, cheerful scene of all these like people working in what appear to be like borderline third world conditions in a coconut farm / factory. So they call it like the coconut oil garden, but essentially what it is like somebody owns like a coconut plantation, and then they have a processing facility on the farm to process it into coconut oil. That's essentially what it is.
It fucking rules that, more movies should start out with like a how it's made under the credits. Like this is what we're getting. We're getting how it's made because we were shown all these guys climbing trees and apparently monkey employees climbing the trees as well.
It's so fun. It's so I don't know, besides just like jaunty and upbeat, like Whistle While We Work like seems like it should be playing in the background. Right? Everyone's just having such a good time. It reminds me, honestly, and especially once you get in the factory, it's showing a little bit how it works. I don't know if you have seen the 1986, and I'll tell you why I know so much about this movie. The 1986, I guess, comedy / like international socio-political film Gung Ho, starring one Mr. Michael Keaton. Have you ever seen that? And it's like a cultural thing ago. With it.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I recognize it.
Yeah, so it's based in Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's why I've seen it. Like I think everybody in Western PA has seen it.
Yes, and it's basically like a Japanese car company buys like the local auto workers, auto factory, right? And then there's like the cultural things you have to come to terms with between the Japanese and the Americans, and ultimately it's this big, kind of socio-political / patriotic type of thing. Anyway, it reminds me of that a little bit. It's just like everyone's just like having fun, just like making capitalism work, guys.
Yeah.
So you quickly get introduced to who I spent the first 2/3 of the movie thinking were cousins. Because I think they refer to each other. He refers the guy I'm getting ahead of myself. You meet Shen, who's a lawyer with crutches. We learn had polio as a child, so he's like disabled. And then Lin, who they call Little You, and Shen refers to Lin's dad as uncle at one point, at least in the subtitle. So I was like, oh, they're cousins. But then they are romantically entwined. So I don't think they're cousins, but that seems to be a little vague at points. But
yeah, I think it's one of those translation things of like translation and cultural of just, it happens a lot in Chinese culture where they'll just refer to somebody who's close as uncle or sometimes auntie. So like I think
so. It's like when Paul Walker calls people "cuh."
Yeah. Exactly. It's exactly that.
Gotcha.
Like they're not actually cousins, but like, you know, him and Tyrese aren't actually cousins, but that's his cuh.
They're not. So. They're not literal cousins, but they are cuh. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Lin's dad's hair. I saw it and said it can't be real, but the more I saw it up close, I think it might have been real. It looks like a wig, but it's bonkers. So you're getting an idea right off the bat of this is what you're dealing with.
It may have been painted on.
It could have been. So you meet the Yang family, and I was kind of confused at first because there's a lot of obviously, you know, Chinese names here, and some of them sound similar, and then the surnames and everything get said in reverse, and I get all confused. But suffice to say that we've got the Yang, but then sometimes in my subtitles it popped up as Wang. Yang or Wang, because then I started referring to the gang as the Wang boys, which I thought was funny. But in any case, they you know, there's a whole series of bad guys that are kind of trying to get in on Shen's family's coconut oil farm / facility, right? And the one guy smokes cigars, so you know he's bad. Right off the bat, they give you that cue. A lot of bullying about Shen, like, hey, we're going to take your factory, yada, yada, yada. The bullying turns into kicks and punches. And then eventually machetes come out. Lin's dad stabs a guy right through the chest with a machete. People got pipe wrenches. I mean, there's just goonage happening all over the place. But ultimately, the big inciting incident here in the scene is that Lin's dad stabs one of the bad guys in the chest with a machete while protecting Lin. He stabs the guy in the chest and then just runs away, right? But he's very quickly arrested. And then within 30 minutes, he will be executed. So he is arrested. He stabs a guy. He gets arrested. They give him a pair of like prison pajamas. And then they're like, you're getting executed in 30 minutes. The whole thing, sentencing, everything happens extremely fast here.
It is. I'm not entirely sure. I think it is Malaysia where the farm is located. Yeah. So whatever their legal system is in the 70s has really expedited. It's just like we got 3 witnesses who saw you stab that guy. Nobody's coming to your aid as a witness. So we're just going to kill you real quick. That's it.
And then the other guys are like, we witnessed it. And they're like, yeah, but you're family, so you can't be witnesses. I guess there's nothing we can do. Like, it's just like, that's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
But guys, we're 5 minutes into the movie. Not even, just barely 5 minutes.
Yeah, just barely. Yeah. It's 5:30 and he's running through the woods away from the police. So it's there.
Here's where things get real wacky. Right before his death, I also mentioned Shen is a lawyer, right? Or he's like a law clerk or something, I would say, right?
Or like a paralegal, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. He works at a law firm, but he doesn't seem to have a lot of power, you know, in his lawyering. Lin's dad, pops off his shirt, and Dad's got a tattoo on his back. And that tattoo tells the story of coconut magic. And guys, that's what it says. I'm not making this up. Nope. He has a tattoo on his back that tells the story of coconut magic. Dad explains that Shen needs to protect Lin. And Shen is of course disabled. He doesn't have a lot of confidence. You know, he's got the crutches, you know, his legs don't work super hot. So he's like, you need to copy the spell from my tattoo but you can only use coconut magic for righteous purposes and primarily to protect Lynn, right? So he gets a piece of tracing paper, and right before Lynn's dad gets executed, he does a real quick copying of the coconut magic spell from Lynn's dad's tattoo.
It's already like a dog shit tattoo too, because it looks like when you like have kids draw on the back of placemats at restaurants with crayons. Mm-hmm. It looks like
it's
that.
Like it's just primary colors.
Yeah.
But then they're like faded. It looks like a utilitarian tattoo, a tattoo that was quickly and hastily put on as a note to remember how to do coconut magic.
Yeah. And this is the first time anybody sees this. Like nobody
never took his shirt off before.
Never been at the pool, and nobody ever asked, hey, what's that about?
No, sir. Never happened. This has not come up before. Lynn didn't know anything about it. He explains that if Shen's use of coconut magic ever is determined to be not righteous, he will die in a very not nice way. That's all he says. And that, you think that's going to come back around? Guys, never really does. Don't worry about it. It really doesn't. So then you go to Shen, and like I said, Shen is like this. Guys, I know Meg's not here. R.I.P. This guy's a real beta cuck.
Yeah,
he's despite his disability, he's a real beta cuck. He's a real incel, and he's just being bullied at work by everyone. Like everyone, it's just, I don't know if in Malaysia it was National Pick on Kids with Polio Day, but they are just fucking with Shen nonstop. He's being a real baby about it. He's just like weeping about it. There's a lady wearing a tablecloth that just like confronts him about it. It's like they're just ripping him a new one at work. The boss is like, do this, you piece of shit. And then the secretary's like, yeah, you're a piece of shit. And he's like, just being a real baby about it.
Like, so I mean, there's two women who are just kind of giving the business in this scene. There's lady who wears a tablecloth who like, she's nicer to him, but she's also like, you got to get your shit together. But like it immediately feels very much like this is someone who has an attachment to him beyond like his attachment to little Yua. You know, is like this could be a second romantic interest if the movie wants it so. So we have this one, and then there's the immediately underling to Mr. Who is the big lawyer of this firm.
Yes. He is the guy with the name on the door kind of lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And she is just telling him to suck it up, stop being a fucking baby, like get that report done. Where were you? He's like, my uncle just got executed. And she says, fuck you, fuck your uncle, type that up and get it done. You were late for court.
She says she says, I'm paraphrasing, but barely. That sounds like a you problem. Like that's pretty much what she says.
Yeah.
It's something like that sounds like something that is your problem. So she's giving him the business hard. Mr. Hugh is he gets to talking with this other kind of she's kind of presented as this little femme fatale-ish type of character. Maybe they just say she's a dancer. And you're like, oh, okay, I don't know what that means, right? Shen tells Lynn after work, right? So after the whole copying the coconut magic tattoo, he's like, I got to go to work. Have fun getting executed. And they just take him off the execution, and it happens off screen. So you're like, oh, maybe he actually doesn't get executed. No, he does. He's dead. He's dead. We just didn't see it, and we have moved on. Shen literally just goes straight to work, walks there, crutches his whole ass to work. And then when he gets there, nobody cares. And then he waits until after work to tell Lynn that, because last he heard was, I'm going to go try to save your dad, which I thought at this point was his uncle. Maybe it's not. I'm going to go try to save your dad with my lawyering. I'll let you know how it goes. It didn't go well. But then he went to work and figured I'll just tell her after work.
Yeah, no bigs. I got work to do.
So he gets back and he's like, he's at a desk. Like, he could call her on the phone. Doesn't do it. Gets home from work. It's like, I was meaning to tell you, I'm sorry. Things got crazy at work. Your dad did get executed this morning.
Yeah. He's been dead, actually, for a minute.
Been dead for at least 8 hours. To comfort her, he prepares her a nice glass of water, and then Shen makes her feel bad that for him, even though her dad got executed this morning and he couldn't help. So then he gaslights her into feeling bad for him. And then he kisses, then they kiss. And he asks her to stay for safety, but also fucking, I think.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, dog. And then Shen is pretty bummed about the whole situation. Not that Lynn's dad got killed, or mostly because Lynn won't fuck him and his legs don't work. So he's like mad. He's like cursing his crutches. He's punching his legs to punish them for their insolence, of course. And then he's like starts chugging booze. He's throwing shit. He's just throwing an old polio tantrum around the apartment, right?
Oh yeah.
And then he finds the directions to the coconut magic ritual, and he's like, all right, it's time. Things can't get any lower. Things are looking bad. I need coconut magic. So the first step to the coconut magic ritual is dig a hole through like a foot of solid poured concrete slab, which is your floor. Remember, he can barely walk, but all of a sudden he's got the strength of fucking, a jackhammer. He just completely with like a mattock, like a pickaxe, smashes through an unbelievably thick concrete poured floor. He's all sweaty, whatever. He does it.
It's all that Baiju he just fucking chugged down. Gave him the muscles.
Yeah,
he's got
honestly
booze muscles.
not even that big of a deal. Like, it took him less than an evening. Like, it's still dark out.
Oh yeah.
So he digs the whole middle of the house out. He plants his ass in the hole, and he says like some sort of, prayer, whatever type of nonsense. And the hole fills with oil. And he sinks into it, and then the oil starts to boil, and he emerges as a red, glowing-eyed muck monster with a beating heart on the outside.
Yes.
To which I say, hell yeah, that's fucking sick.
I also just like this scene where he's like in the hole praying, because it for some reason reminded me of the Boxer's Omen, where he's inside the vase or whatever. Yeah. And that's how he gets his super Buddha powers or whatever. He's in the vase doing prayers. But also,
I forgot it was Buddha that gives him all his powers. Yeah.
But also, apparently, you can just dig a hole anywhere and also pray, and then you get muck monster powers. So it all just depends.
It had to be in the middle of your home.
Yeah.
I do remember that was part of it. But yes, you just dig a hole in your home, sit in it, say a prayer, you get sick ass muck monster powers.
Yeah. I also like how his teeth are all fucked up and on the outside. Like, he still has a mouth, but it's just like fucked up teeth mouth.
He has no fingers.
No,
he's just crazy. Basically like a snowman. Type of. I don't even know how to describe it. He just is he's basically got the silhouette of like a giant like gingerbread man.
Yeah,
but made of muck, made of crazy oil, black oil, tar type of thing, right? But he's got the red glowing eyes. He's got the glowing red heart that's kind of pumping on the outside. Then he's got, like you said, just a kind of a mouthful of a kind of crooked ass teeth. just kind of always snarling at you.
None of this comes back into play at any point. Like, you think the heart is like a weak spot or something? No,
I would have bet anything. I would have bet my right hand that was going to be the part that at the, well, we'll get to it, but at the end when she picks up that fire poker, I'm like, oh, of course, she's just going to stab him in the heart.
Yeah.
Nope, wrong.
Yeah, it's a good allegory for everything that's been happening in the film, of like, she's rejected him so many times and now she stabs him in the heart, just the way he's felt the entire. Nope, that's not what happened. Nope, never mind.
Nope, that's not what happened. We couldn't do that. That was too hard. We had to get this fucking thing to print. Anyway, again, I'm referring to them now, the bad kind of gang, as the Wang Boys. They're not. I just like the idea of a gang being called the Wang Boys.
Hell yeah.
The Wang Boys are coming for Lynn, right? Because they got her dad, and they're coming to essentially just to sexually assault her. That's their whole goal in life. So Oily, Shen, the Oily Maniac himself, leaks in. And so he can do this, right? This is a power that he does over and over and over, probably 20 times in this movie, where he just dematerializes into a puddle of oil and then slurps through some pipes or through some crack somewhere in a door, and then rematerializes on the other side and fucks you up. So that's essentially his primary move. So he leaks in and then double axe handle slams one of the Wang Boys to death, and then chases the other one away. And that one goes back to the rest of the Wang Boys and is like, oh, there's a big oily monster, and they're like, go to the insane asylum. And they just take him to the insane asylum.
Well, that's the police. He goes to the police and they take him away. He tries.
Oh yeah, they take him to the police. That's right. They take him to the police. I'm sorry. I'm getting two scenes mixed up.
Yeah, he didn't tell the rest of the gang. He went to the police and said, "Hey, there's this crazy muck monster that fucking killed my brother the same way that monsters on the original Star Trek killed people."
Yeah. Just double axe handle slam or a cranium crush, one or the other. That's his two main moves. Yeah, sorry. He goes to the police station. And then basically the way... go ahead.
I just want to point out something. After he double axe handle smashes the guy, he sees Lynn, who's had her clothes ripped off, and he takes the time to be very delicate and just like hide her shame and immodesty and puts a blanket over her. And then we cut to the sickest monster parkour this side of 1974. He's just running up and down buildings for no reason, but you get so many scenes of him running away. You never not see him run away.
No, he's always running away. He is doing monster parkour. He's jumping up and down. And this is fun, too, because they keep shooting it in reverse when he jumps up and down. So basically what they do is they get the suit and they just drop it off like a wall or a bridge or something.
Yeah.
And then they just play it back in reverse to make it look like he jumped up on the bridge.
Yeah.
But he also makes this sound where... if you've ever played Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and if you've played for Sega or for Super Nintendo, the game Zombies Ate My Neighbors as much as I do, there is one of the bad guys is one of the enemies is he's essentially like a little kind of Chucky doll type of thing, but he has an axe. And anytime he appears, he goes, "Wah!" and he like just does this scream thing. That's essentially the sound that the Oily Maniac makes, is just like this shrieking scream roar. It's like, "Rawr!" when it comes on screen. And he just does that anytime he shows up or anytime he does one of these like reverse leaps up or down from something.
Yeah, which is what reminded me also a lot of the Toxic Avenger. Is like the Toxic Avenger has like just a usually very normal speaking voice, but when he's doing monster hero stuff, he's always
yeah. This is I mean, there's no way this wasn't heavily influenced. That didn't heavily influence the Toxic Avenger. Here's how you transform back into Shen. You just take a nap. You just lay down, you take a nap, you slowly transform, you slowly get less greasy until you're Shen with just a little bit of grease on you. So the bad guy, or I'm sorry, the cops, we said they throw the Wang boy who got who came back alive into the insane asylum. And then you start to get this thing. So the dancer that went to see Mr. Hu, she is involved in this rape case that Mr. Hu is representing her as the plaintiff in. Her name is Miss Lamb. I didn't realize, and I think you're right about the Malaysian thing, because I think this is like showing like some of the like Western European influence is in their court proceedings. They wear the little curly powdered wigs like they do in Britain. It's so funny to me that they still do that. I love it. It's such a silly thing. So they're in. It's this whole courtroom scene, and first the guy who's being accused of raping her, he has his little flashback, and basically he says like, "Hey, we're neighbors. Our apartments across the hall from each other. She came on to me." Like there's this whole scene of like she got home and is like, "Come on in," and like seduces him, and then like essentially like locks him in and seduces him, right? And then her flashback, like her account of it, is totally different. Like he was drunk, forced himself on her, like violently assaulted her, right? The line of questioning that the lawyer is doing is like intentionally very distressing about the sexual assault, and they very clearly show right from the beginning that she's lying. And with the help of Mr. Who, which is Shen's boss, the crooked lawyer boss, this guy is convicted of rape of this quote unquote dancer woman, and the guy is convicted and basically owes her like a ton of money in damages, right? But the lawyer takes 80% of it, and she's fine with that because it was all his idea. And essentially, this is a big, essentially, kind of fraud type of case, right? Where they're just mounting a fake case against this guy to squeeze money out of him.
Right, which is wild because no jail time involved at all for
no jail time
for what's described as a full-on rape, and he gets a suspended 2-year sentence. So he's on probation and owes her a couple $100,000.
Yeah,
that's it.
Right. Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, poor guy," and I'm like, if he did, which obviously he's innocent, but if he did, it's like no jail time is pretty fucked up. Anyway, Shen goes over to Lin's house for dinner, and I couldn't help but think his shirt was so complicated. It must cost so much money. It must be so expensive. I just couldn't think of the I think he should leave style like shirt. But so Lin is Shen is in love with Lin. Lin won't marry Shen. He's being a real incel about it, and she's engaged to another guy, and she breaks the news to him, and he's pissed. Shen is very bummed about this. He is dejected. He stumbles out into just this immediate like monsoon storm while the fiance comes in and bangs Lin in the back room, just like at her house. She's like, "No, I'm engaged to somebody else. By the way, he's here. We're going to bang. You got to go out and walk home in the rain." He's like, "Oh, no." So he's walking home. But then he actually stays and watches them bang through the window a little bit, which is, in and of itself, pretty not cool.
Yeah. Like you said, there's this monsoon happening, and he's pouting out in the rain. Mm-hmm. And the fiance, like, he comes to the front door, opens the door, and he's shirtless. And he clearly looks at Shen and just says, "Yeah, whatever," and then shuts the door on him again and goes in and goes to Pound Town on her. He's like, "Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Go home. Go home, Crushes.
Go home. Go home, you beta cuck." So this is when Shen goes into full incel mode. And at this point, he's already turned into, of course, the Oily Maniac once with the coconut oil ritual. In this instance, he just goes to a gas station. And luckily, this gas station, you can purchase just, I guess, is what is straight crude oil from a pump, and just sprays it all over himself, turning himself into the oil monster again. Meanwhile, Miss Lamb, who's the one who falsely accused the guy of rape so that she could get his money, is entertaining a gentleman caller at her house, and she goes to freshen up in her, what I can only assume is a Barbie themed bathroom. It's like the whole thing is like Barbie pink. And she goes in to freshen up. Shen oils his way through the pipes into the bathroom. Meanwhile, the gentleman caller is out there in his skivvies in the out in the room. She's in the bathroom. She just strips down naked. By the way, I don't know if I can think of another Hong Kong what would be considered like a horror movie that has so many boobs. There's just a tremendous amount of boobs in this movie.
Yeah.
I know the Shaw Brothers movies, like that would be quite a common thing. There's just like, there's about 18 sets of boobs in this movie.
Yeah. There's some boobs in Boxer's Omen, and there's some boobs in The Seventh Curse.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one, it just has boobs upon boobs. I almost choked at some boobs that come up later in the next couple scenes. I almost choked because I was just eating dinner while I was watching, and then just a boob fucking, like, I don't know, startled me.
Steve does have a phobia of boobs where he does just choke sometimes. He travels through the through the plumbing into her bathroom as oil, of course, and then reforms in the bathtub, quickly strangles her, but in true incel fashion spares the man because it wasn't his fault. It was that dirty bitch. So he's just like, put your underwear back on, dude, and leaves him be. Meanwhile, the oily maniac just rampages, and just, he's just rampaging around town a little bit at this point. Then you get what was my favorite scene in the whole movie. All right. So coming into Mr. Who's office, right, which is, of course, where Shen works. This beautiful young, what they describe as a pop star, walks into the office, and Mr. Who claims, her name is Miss Mo, by the way. She claims that someone fucked up her tits. And she basically is saying that I went to a plastic surgeon to get some plastic surgery done on my boobs, and they fucked them up. They made a mistake. And of course he says, all right, pop them puppies out. Let's see what's up.
Yeah. I got to see him because I got to know what's wrong.
I'm a lawyer. Yeah, I'm your lawyer. I have to see them.
Yeah.
She pulls them out, and one is fine, but the other looks like it died and is rotting on the vine. It's the only way I can describe it. And
it is shocking.
Steve, I did one of these when that happened. I was watching this by myself, sitting, in my basement, and I did one of these. I scream laughed. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
When they showed it, I was pissing myself when they showed her like one dead. It just reminded me. Speaking of It's Always Sunny, it's like when Dennis gets married to Marlene, whatever, and she's got the one dead tooth,
Oh, yeah.
But instead of having dead tooth, she just has one dead boob. It's just like, I almost died.
To better explain it and why it caught me so bad is like, so she pulls off her sweater and you see like the bra, and under the bra you see like some scarification, and you're going to be like, okay, so she probably has like a little scar on her boob. Yeah. But then she pops off her bra and you see the one boob and the nipple is facing forward at the camera.
Yeah.
And then the dead boob is pointing down at the ground.
Yeah.
The nipple is down, just sad, down at the ground.
It just looks like it's rotting on the vine. It looks like someone like sprayed it with like liquid nitrogen, like for a long time or something.
Yeah,
it's just dead. It's just dead. It died.
And I had a crab rangoon in my mouth at that time, and I was not able to scream laugh.
So you just swallowed it whole.
Yeah, like I almost choked and died on a crab rangoon because I wanted to scream laugh at it, but I couldn't.
Well, listen, the director is of Cantonese origin, so I feel like the most appropriate way for you to die while watching this movie would be choking on a crab rangoon. Anyway, oh my God, it's so fucking funny. She obviously wants to sue, but Mr. Who, the bad boss lawyer, who's up to no good, who's shrewd bastard, basically says like, you don't have a case, but I could probably get her to settle for $10,000. And she's like, only $10,000, blah, blah, blah. Like my career's fucked up, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, take it or leave it. And she's like, okay, I'll take it. And he's like, and I take half. So she's like, so I only get $5,000? He's like, yeah, bitch, you only get $5,000. He's a real bastard. But then he goes and basically blackmails the plastic surgeon and says like, if you pay, I'll get her to talk her into settling for $150,000. But of course she agrees. So, but he just pockets that, right? Because he's a bastard.
Right. So he gets to make $145,000 and then gives Ms. Mo with her bad boob fucking $5,000.
5 G's for a rotten tit. Shen's face every time a client walks out of the office is hilarious. They do this like sting, and he does this like sad boy face. It's just I mean, how many times do you think he does that face in this movie? Honestly, like conservatively 8 to 10 times it pops up.
He's just he's such a fucking sad sack, and it like you can't root for him as a hero at all, because even though he has the cool alter ego of the Oily Maniac, you know underneath it is just like this sad boy who's always just like, ooh, women are up to something again.
But then also like some of these conversations, they act like he's privy to them.
Right.
But he's really isn't. But then like later he maybe finds a tape recorder that might have been on in the office, but doesn't really come back around. But that's what we assume is the case. But still, it shouldn't matter because he wouldn't have known at that point what was happening. So why did he make that face? I don't know. Anyway.
At that point, I think he's just making incel face at Miss Mo. Yeah. Because he thinks every client so at this point he knows Mr. Who is bad because Mr. Who and Lamb, the dancer, had the conversation in front of Shen that like, we got that guy and he's going to jail for not rape.
Yeah. They think so little of Shen that they literally just throw out their entire plan in front of him.
Yeah. So he knows Mr. Who is bad. So, which he doesn't punish right away for whatever reason. Yeah, because
it's a guy.
Yeah,
until women start doing bad stuff, and he's like, now the punishments start getting dealt out.
So when he sees Ms. Mo go into Mr. Who's office and then come out, he just goes into his incel mind. He's like, oh, women doing something again. Women are up to something. It's like his incel energy is fucking, it's pretty pronounced at this point. Here's another instance, right? So fast forward to this operating room, and so I think this is the doctor who messed up that the girl's boob. I'm not really sure. Yeah. Okay. And she's doing what I think, and I'm just figuring this out from like, because the closed caption was like not real clear here, and admittedly, I'm like the one person has a mask on, so I'm not really sure who's who. No, who's the lawyer?
It's a real Abbott and Costello situation we got here.
Heyo.
But am I right here? Are they doing hymen reconstruction on prostitutes?
Yeah, they're either doing hymen reconstruction or they're doing husband stitches. It's very much just like they're bringing in prostitutes to this unlicensed surgeon, and she's like making their vaginas tighter to be more virginal so that the pimp can sell them as virgins.
Yes. Okay. So that's what I thought, because he's like, this one almost didn't pass as a virgin or something. And I'm like, okay. So I think this is what's happening. Anyway, Shen, first of all, he can't stand that a high value Andrew Tate level alpha dog like him could be tricked by one of these low value treacherous beta bitches. So he comes in there and just starts smashing up the operating room. He stomps the female doctor to death. Just stomps a fucking mud hole in her ass.
And they do before he stomps her to death. He kills everybody in this operating room.
Up which are almost exclusively females. And
it's all women.
Yeah.
So The first, it happens so fast that you might miss it, but he jumps down off the ceiling, and the first thing he does is he grabs the operating table in which the prostitute is still on and throws it over on top of her.
Yep. He just upends it on her.
Yeah, he just goes, prostitutes, no. He double judo chops the nurses and then stomps the mud hole in the doctor.
He does double judo chop on both sides of her head. Oh, and then he smashes through the door, and then the pimp guy, he chases him through the street. The pimp who brought the girl in, right? And then he chases the guy, blah blah blah, and then the guy gets away, but then the guy follows him. And the pimp, he sees him go back to his house and change back into Shen. So he knows his secret identity at this point, basically. So the pimp, the Hyman guy, right? He tries to blackmail Shen. Mistake, right? He calls him up. He's like, "You better come down here with a bunch of cash, or I'm going to tell everybody you're the oily maniac," right? And Shen shows his concerned face again. Same face. He gets that same face again. So here's where I start to think about this, right? And shame on me for not thinking about it up to this point. Here's what made me think about it. There's a scene where the pimp is talking to his another fellow bad guy, right? And they're like, "Well, what if he doesn't come?" And he's like, "Oh, he'll come." And they're just like talking, and they're smoking cigs, right? And I'm like, why don't they just set him on fire? Because he's made of oil. He's undoubtedly extremely flammable. Yeah. If you just flicked a cigarette at him, wouldn't that kill him?
Right.
But no one has made that connection up to this point, even though they are calling him the oily maniac and talking about how he's covered in oil in the papers. Like, it is common knowledge, right?
Yeah, at all times. Yeah, he is not known as anything else.
No, that is the terminology that is used by the press. And the one thing every single bad guy in this movie has in common is they're all smoking. And so I'm like, why are they not going to fight him with fire at some point? Like, but they don't. You would think they would think about it, but they don't.
Nope. There is one scene that you kind of breezed past, and it's just a tiny little interstitial, but it's the police investigating the operating room afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's one of the very few scenes of slapstick in the movie. But you have the chief detective who we've seen before. He's the one that sent the guy to the nut house. He's the other one. He rearrested the guy who was accused of rape. Yeah. He also pinned the murder of the dancer on that guy too. He said, "Yeah, no, this is the oily maniac. He's going away." So now he's in the operating room.
Suck.
Yeah, the cops are bad. Yeah. But he's in the operating room with his lieutenant detective, and the lieutenant detective's asking him, he's like, "Well, I thought we arrested the oily maniac. How is the oily maniac back?" And he's like, "The oily maniac isn't back. This is just a copycat. He knows to be an oily maniac and cause trouble."
Yeah.
And the chief clears the frame, and for no reason, the lieutenant detective starts rubbing his face, but he has a handful full of oil. And so he just does like a Abbott Costello, fucking Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges, just little slapstick of like rubbing oil all over his face. And it's like, oh, why? Well, okay. I mean, you haven't done anything else like that the entire movie, but sure, fine, funny.
There's no, like, this movie is generally pretty mean and serious. And all of a sudden he's doing a bit, where it's like doing the old, ink on the telescope lens thing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so they go to the pimp and his crew are going to blackmail Shen, right? But instead he just blasts out of the water with his patented scream to the top of the boat. And you get like 5 of these like reverse shots in like 30 seconds at this point. It's him just jumping from part to part of this, like it's almost a not a tanker, but it's some sort of big, cargo vessel or something like that.
They're all hanging out on a tugboat, but they're in a shipyard. So like
it's a shipyard.
The fight spills into the shipyard.
Yep. And it's really corny, but it actually looks kind of fucking cool. I'm not gonna lie, like it's pretty looks cool. And he just fucks everyone up with his oily brand of karate. And then he beats the blackmailer to death with his own bike. Like he gets away on a bike and then chases him down, because the one thing you should know is when he turns into oily mode, he can go like crazy fast. Like he can just like fucking Quicksilver across the ground. And he catches up to him and he fucking beats him to death with his own bike. And it reminded me of Step Brothers when he's like, I saw my son use a bicycle as a weapon today. I'm just in a Will Ferrell mood.
Yeah. I just like it because after he beats the guy to death, you get the framing of like in the foreground, the pimp is beaten to death with the bike wheel over his face. And it's real just kind of dramatic. And then just in the background, he just lumbers off like he does his little runaway in the background.
He can't put his arms down. Like I said, he looks like a fucking gingerbread man in silhouette.
Yeah.
So the girl from The Office who's kind of nice to Shen makes her cry because he pretty much negs her too hard about her curry. But it ultimately works because in this incel fever dream, that sort of behavior pays off, and ultimately, it plays to his advantage, and she likes him even more. She explains that she overheard Lynn's fiance, the guy who was banging her out when he was crying in the rain, overheard him saying that. Talking to Mr. Who, the bad lawyer boss, about how they were working together to take the coconut oil farm factory from Shen, and that he's not even planning to marry Lynn. In fact, he's going to give her, quote unquote, to one of the Wang boys, one of his cronies. Anyway, so now we know that pretty boy LaCroix over there, the fiance is bad. He's definitely bad.
Definitely.
Yeah. So they leave, meaning the fiance and his crony guy. They leave a note for Lynn that says, "Come on over to the coconut factory." And of course she's like, "Okay, something must be wrong. Go to the coconut factory." And the fiance basically just allows his crony to rape her. It's a pretty brutal scene. You don't see it, but he like assaults her, rips her blouse off, and then it's like everything fades to black, and then he's like, ha ha ha, afterwards, let's get a drink. And then she's just laying unconscious and half naked, like in the factory. So essentially she is raped by the by the crony, which I think is one of the Wang boys, and the former, the would be fake fiance is like, yeah, let's have a drink. That worked out great. And then I think she kills herself with a meat hook.
Yes.
She wakes up from after having been raped and is like, this is not good situation. She looks over and she sees like what looks like a meat hook, but apparently could also, I think, be a coconut hook. I don't know. And then you don't see what happens, but then Shen shows up at her house and finds the note and is like, "Oh, I didn't leave this note. I got to go over there," and finds her. And she had, I think, sliced her throat with the meat hook and killed herself. Which is pretty fucking dark. Fucking dark.
It's dark, but it's in line with like the incel attitude of this film because
she just went from moderate value to low value because she lost her virginity.
Right.
On the Andrew Tate scorecard,
down the card, but also it's in line with the thinking of, she saw her rapist and her fiance palling around. Like she wakes up after her assault and she sees the boyfriend and the rapist. They're having smokes and drinks. And then they're like leaving the factory, just high-fiving each other. Like, haha, we got that woman. And then she sees the meat hook and kills herself. Yeah. And in the incel attitude of this movie, that's justice for her not being with Shen. Yeah. Shen doesn't learn this really.
She deserves to die because she wasn't with the right guy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. she got her punishment for not being with the right person. Yes. And so that's what she had to die. Not like she goes to Shen and says, "Hey Shen, like these guys got me. Can you get them back or something?" Or, anything like, nope. I have been fooled and bamboozled, and so I should take my own life now.
Yes, that's what I deserve. Right. That's the mentality of this extremely, I will say, one of the more fun and simultaneously problematic movies. But the fact that it is a Hong Kong schlocky exploitation movie from 1974, there is nothing surprising about any of this. But it is greasy. It is greasy.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, if you think about it, it's terrible. But the film itself doesn't necessarily give you enough time to think about it because...
No, the film is like, this happened, right? Because that's what happens next in this story,
Yeah, the film is under 90 minutes and just like it goes boop-a-doop-a-doop from scene to scene. Like Shen discovers her body and before like you can even really process anything, he's out in a road construction like PennDOT's out, and then he goes, finds their tar and jumps in their bucket of tar to turn into the Oily Maniac.
He just spots a pool of oil at a nearby construction site, and just like slips down into it, and then just transforms, right? And then the construction workers are very scared and confused, and they all just run away. So the fiance and the Wang boy, the rapist with the scraggly teeth, they're off having drinks with the boss, with Mr. Hu, and I forget what her name is now, the mean lady who treated Shen bad in the office, right? Yeah, they're just having drinks, the four of them, and they're just like basically just talking about how good they are at being bad guys, and they're just joking about how like dumb of a loser Shen is. Basically. and then they're like, yeah, that guy sucks. We're gonna take his farm. We killed and raped his girlfriend, and she killed herself. Like they're just laughing about just having drinks and stuff, and then they just are like, all right, well, good night. So they all depart, and we see Shen turns back into the little oily puddle. And then, since he can move at the speed of cars, he chases Mr. Hu and the jerk office lady, who we now learn that he is married and they are performing adultery as well. So that just adds to the whole mix here. In any case, the boss and the mean lady, they stop to bone in his car, right? Just kind of at like a lover's lane kind of situation, I guess. But Shen materializes in the back seat and crushes gives him a cranium crunch in the back seat, and then crushes and then strangles the mean lady, and then like frames her up, like poses her in a very compromised state of her like naked spread eagle in the front seat. Again, it's given everyone such incel vibes, the whole thing.
It is just like he grabs her by the ankles and like pulls her legs apart, and it's just like, yeah, this is your shame because you're a woman and women are evil.
Yeah, lady and your evil vagina. So the nice girl from the office goes to Shen's house and finds like oily splatters all over the walls and the hole in the floor, of course, that's being hid by like a rug, right? And then Shen returns home after a long day of incel revenge and turns back into a human form, lays down the ground, turns back, and she's spying the whole thing from the closet. She's like, oh my God, it's, the Shen is the oily maniac and blah, blah, blah. He pulls out a knife like he's going to kill her, but then he's like, I won't kill you because I'm a man of honor. I'm Andrew Tate. And then she's like, oh, you're so kind for not murdering me. And they have this like heart to heart. And Shen basically is saying like, I'm probably going to kill myself, but not before I kill the last two jerks, which is, of course, the fiance and the Wang boy, the rapist of his actual love, right? A.K. his cousin. The cops come to the office. This is a very funny scene, too. The cops come to the office and they're like, your boss got killed and you're all suspects. And then they go out into the hall, and one of them, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is almost word for word what he says. He's like, we suspect everyone in the office except for the cripple. He definitely didn't do it.
Yeah. That is, he says, except the crippled one.
Yeah.
So it's just right down the middle, no hiding it at all. They're like, look, anybody in this office could have turned that guy's head into a watermelon, which was very clearly a watermelon when it was crushed. So like but like anybody could have done that except for polio guy over here. Fuck him. Yeah. Not him.
Don't worry about him. Don't waste your time with that beta.
He couldn't have.
He couldn't have. Look at his legs. So all of a sudden, like, there's a lot of bad guys, like the Wang boy. He's got a huge, like, just posse of bad guys. Also, did you notice that all the cops, not the detectives, but all the cops are like 12 years old? Like, they all look so much younger than everyone else in the movie. It was so weird.
It's just they literally just got like street punks off the street. I think
they're like 14. I swear. Yeah.
They just found kids who were smoking by that building they were filming at, and they're like, "Here, throw these on."
Yeah, he's like, "If you put this costume on and follow me when I tell you to follow me, I'll give you a pack of smokes." They're like, "Oh, hell yeah,
hell yeah, dude."
So the bad guy, like I said, so I started calling him Big Wang at this point. So
sure.
Big Wang has a whole posse that is protecting him, and it's almost a it's a weird. What's it remind me of? It reminds me of like a drug lord type of, the final, hey, we're going in to kill the drug lord, and he's got all his bad guys protecting his big mansion type of type of scene.
Yeah. It also just very specifically reminds me of, there's an early scene in the film The Protector, and the Tony Jaa jumps into this mansion that's like run by this dude who sells elephants, and it's like everybody in that scene is dressed like this as well, with just like they all have like these open floral print shirts, because like they're just like wearing
button
their hot
downs.
They're wearing their hot Tommy Bahamas so they can sweat, but it's on the other side of the world. It's in Malaysia, which is hot there. So
they're all wearing
just
khakis.
Sweating.
Khakis and like half to 2/3 open button Tommy Bahama shirts.
Yeah.
And like slick back hair, and they all have machetes. No one has guns. No one has guns because it's not America. So no one has guns. And they are they're all just hanging around. He's like, go check over there, make sure that the bad guy doesn't come get me or whatever. So he says, like, go check the garden or whatever. So he starts spreading them out. Shen finds some oil and transforms, and then he leaks like along the wall and gets in the building that way. And then as soon as he pops in there, uses his oily karate, he just fucks everyone up. And this is really where they like you start to understand the true powers of the Oily Maniac, because blades do not harm him. He's made of oil. They'll hack him in the back and it just like makes like a squishy noise, right? They cut off his arm. It just fucking grows back. They cut off his head, literally decapitate him. Whoop, head grows back, keeps fighting.
Yep.
So he is fucking everyone up at this point. He's using his oily karate. He keeps doing the kind of wild roar thing over and over and over again. He then starts barfing oil on a bunch of the goons that is either hot or perhaps acid. I don't know, but it's killing them. It's harming them to barf oil on them.
It's making them quit fighting. It's like, it really just feels like he spits oil on them and they go, oh, he got us. Oh, we're down. He got us.
Oh, damn it. Oil, my only weakness. We know a couple of weaknesses at this point, though, because you're like, he's invincible at this point. You cut his head off, you cut his arm off, doesn't matter. He's going to keep coming. But then you're like, actually, as the audience, we know a couple of things that he's got, right, that are potential weaknesses. One, he's got that heart that they keep showing and zooming in on. The heart that's kind of on the outside. So, of course, that looks like a weak spot. That looks literally like a Resident Evil villain's weak spot, right?
Yeah.
But we also know that he's highly flammable because he's made of oil. But we have not alluded to that in any way during the movie.
Not once.
He beats everyone's ass. He strangles Big Wang, chokes him, kills him. And then the cops show up, start shooting him, which seems to hurt him a lot more than getting his head cut off. Enough to kind of like...
It seems like they shoot him in the heart.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe that... You think maybe that did it, but no.
But they didn't show it, and he falls on his like face down, but then he just turns into oil and fucks off, right? So, it slowed him down, but it didn't really hurt him, right?
No.
So now you have the final showdown between Shen and the hunky fiance, right? At the oil garden plant factory farm. So they go over there, and this is where the final showdown is going to be. Shen decides to, unwisely, to face him in his normal form, which is just regular Shen with polio crutches.
Well, no, he doesn't even have his crutches.
Yeah, that's true. No, or he doesn't? Anyway.
Oh, no, he does, but he loses them. He loses them in the scene when he gets shot.
Right. Yes, because it's not successful. It's a poor tactic. He is promptly shot by the fiance. But luckily for Shen, despite his horrible miscalculation, he is sprayed with oil and turns into his oily monster form. So he transforms, and then we now discover at this juncture that he has Nightcrawler powers too. So before this, he has been shrinking down into a puddle of oil, slinking across the ground, and then reforming. So it's kind of this, like I said, this Quicksilver type of thing where he could like squeeze into little areas and go through plumbing and all this stuff. Now you just figure out that he can just dematerialize and materialize, just and cover distances almost immediately. Which is, again, it's just basically a quicker version of what his powers already were, but fine. We learn at this point that he has that. Shen beats up all the cops and, again, stomps a mud hole in the fiance. Just fucking stomps his chest cavity, basically. He's got the two detectives in like a double headlock, like you would have like an uncle like having like two nephews under his arms, you know what I mean, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the girl who has been accompanying the cops, who is the girl from the office who kind of thinks he's okay, who's kind of nice to him, she's like, don't kill them. And she decides that she is going to get what looks like some sort of like a metal rod, and you think, oh, she's gonna slam it right through his heart, right? The perfect allegory for what happened, the whole way through the movie, and the heart, and all that stuff. No, she just sets him on fire. Puts it in the fire, sets him on fire. He goes up in flames. And we're like, oh, he was flammable the whole time. The heart didn't matter. He's just really flammable. Okay, fine. He burns quickly to death. Obviously, because he's very flammable. End of movie. Credits.
Yeah. It is.
It's the end of the movie.
It's one of my favorite things about these type of movies is they could not give less of a shit about the ending.
Nope.
Like,
you were
it's
already here.
over.
You already paid your money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck you. Yeah.
It's over. What do you want? Are we supposed to get another scene where she gets debriefed by the detective? No, the oily maniac's dead. Why would we have something beyond the oily maniac?
Roll the credits. Turn the lights on.
Yeah. Get out. Movie's over.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Which, frankly, it's the right move. It's the right decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this movie is so stupid and so fun. And honestly, guys, if nothing else good happened besides the one dead tit, it would still be worth watching. But so many other things happen that are really fun.
Yeah.
This is just a damn fun. This is what I think of when I'm like, hey, this. The Boxer's Omen. This is like the wackiness that you want from, a fucking weird Shaw Brothers Hong Kong movie. It's just a pleasure. It's greasy. It's grimy. It's not like I've been going back and with my kids and watching all the old like Toho, a bunch of old Toho movies, especially Godzilla, but a bunch of other ones, War of the Gargantuas and all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they're all like pretty squeaky clean, you know what I mean, for the most part. These movies are greasy, and grimy, and it's just it's the best kind of exploitation schlock. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, by the way, we didn't mention the Oily Maniac. Free on YouTube. Go watch on the YouTubes. I think you can go rent it for a couple bucks other places if you want like a higher resolution or something like that. But free on YouTube as well. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have a good time. There's
something else we didn't mention, and it's really important. It's crazy that we didn't mention it, but it's really important. Anytime the Oily Maniac shifts into his puddle form and is stalking people, it's literally the Jaws theme song.
Oh my god, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, now I have to re-listen to it because I like it's like the dun.
Yeah. It's literally the Jaws theme song. That's why I corrected you when you said 74 earlier, because it's 76, because Jaws was 75, and they directly rip the theme song for the Oily Maniac when he's stalking people. It's just the god. It never gets to the point where the strings come in with the da da da. It doesn't. Yeah. It never gets to that, but it's always the da da.
Wow, I didn't even pick it up, and it's because probably, in my mind, the dun for a chase type of thing. Just, I mean, for Christ's sake, they did that on like Tiny Toons. You know what I mean? Right, everything ever has done that because it's Jaws, right? It's one of the famous movies of all time. But that's really funny. I mean, this is, it's just got all the hallmarks of a great exploitation movie. And it's just fucking stupid fun. God, honestly, I mean, even better than some of the other things we talked about, the dead boob, all that stuff's great. The goddamn coconut spell tattoo. I mean, I knew right there. We're 5 minutes in. I'm like, I'm gonna love this movie because the guy's got a damn tattoo in his back with a fucking coconut magic spell.
Right, yeah, coconut magic. Hey, and it's always just these other Southeastern Asian countries through the lens of China. I was just they're all weird magicians and they all have fucking different magic, and they'll turn you into fucking Super Buddha, or they'll give you a blood curse or whatever, and it's just
go to Taiwan and you're gonna get Super Buddha. Go to Malaysia, you're going to get coconut magic. It's just so racist. So racist. So go check it out. Like I said, free on the YouTubes, or if you want to pay a couple bucks for it, do that too. All right, boys and ghouls, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us talking about this stupid fucking movie. And remember, get ready. Join us next month as we talk about the movies we are picking for our May Showdown episode, which is space horror, guys. I already have a couple that I'm thinking about, one of which I like a lot, but I'm like, wait, did we do it? I got to go back and look. Anyway, it will be a lot of fun. As always, go follow us on the social medias. Go check us out on the Patreon if you want to go check, get up to speed for the final episode of Family is Forever, which will be coming out this month. Yeah, that's about it. Steve, is there anything else I'm forgetting we need to call out?
No, just go watch Fallout. It's a good movie, good show.
Yeah, go watch Fallout. And there's like some fun little trailers you can watch there a couple minutes even before you watch the movie as well. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, and all the games are on sale as well. Like I went and picked up Fallout New Vegas for $5. So
you know what? Fallout New Vegas, the only one I ever played.
That's the only one I haven't played, which is why I bought it. Yeah.
That's the only one I played.
Yeah. I played 3 and 4 and I like them fine, but I didn't want to go back to them. And then I clicked, I was like, oh, New Vegas. I can play that one.
Weirdly, New Vegas, because it was so huge when it came out. Everybody was shitting their pants. When did that come out? It's got to be fucking 10 years ago, right? It was a long time ago.
Yeah, way more than 10 years ago. Because because New Vegas followed 3. So I think it had to be like 2008, 2009 even.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. It was like, because I remember it was after I graduated from college, but I remember playing that but it was before my kids were born, because there's no way I would have played that fucking game after I had kids. But man, I put a lot of hours in that game. 2010, there you go. Yeah, I didn't have no kids. Didn't have no kids back then. That's a really fun game. That's the only one I ever played. I have friends that are so into the Fallout series, and I'm always like, fuck, I would love it, but now it's too late. I can't go back and play them. Maybe I'll go back and play them when I'm fucking, 50 and my kids are in college or something. Who knows? But I'm saving that for meth. I'm going to start doing meth at that point, I think.
Yes.
All right, boys and ghouls. For the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
And I'm Steve.
All right, we'll see you next time, you bunch of oily motherfuckers. All right, bye.
You bunch of greasy.
You bunch of greasy fucks.